have a story for you that is a traditional story told from the Eastern Europe. Those of you who know me know this story. It's one of my favorite stories, but I thought, especially at this time, it's a good story to be told. This is a story about Yunkel. Yunkel was a thief. And if there was one particular characteristic about Yunkel that you need to know, it was that he was thoroughly and utterly incompetent. As a thief, he couldn't manage to steal anything from anyone without getting caught. And if that wasn't bad enough, not only would he get caught, but whoever he was trying to steal from would take whatever money he had from him as punishment. So he was just thoroughly incompetent. Now, he lived in this little community. It's called a shtetl, which is a poor community and not very much to speak of there. People live a hard life, but this was the only way he could think to make money, was to try and steal it from others, and it just wasn't working. So he really did have one other characteristic, and that is that he was persistent. So he thought, well, I may not be a good enough thief myself, but if I gather around me a cadre of other thieves, certainly we can be successful. So he found some people who were willing to throw in with him, and they decided to become a gang of thieves, and they tried to rob people in the shtetl, and it was even worse. People got to know them as the band of thieves, and all they'd have to do is see them walking down the street, and they'd run over and beat them up and take their money. So this was clearly not going to be a career choice for Yunkel and his friends. Well, he thought about it, and he said, you know, the problem is, this is a small community, it's a poor community, everybody knows us, and there's nothing worth stealing anyways. There are roads that connect these shtetls. They're highways, they're called, and people travel along the highways in coaches, and some of them are very, very wealthy. So why don't we go out and go where the money is and rob from the wealthy individuals, and they won't know us, and we should have a much better chance. Well, his cohorts thought that was a pretty good idea. So they headed out to the highway, they went into hiding, and as the first wealthy carriage came by, they leapt out, all excited they're going to steal their money. Of course, they didn't stop to think that a wealthy carriage would have guards. And when they leapt out, the guards saw them coming and they beat them within an inch of their lives, and it clearly, this wasn't going to work either. Yunkel was persistent. And so he said to his fellows, look, we're just going to starve if we keep this up. I've noticed that some of the carriages that go between these towns are not wealthy. In fact, they're broken down. They seem to carry just one rabbi, and they have a bunch of his disciples, his Hasids, following him. When they get to another community, people are so happy to see him. They throw food at him. They throw money at him. They offer him a place to stay. And all they have to do is the rabbi has to answer a few questions, maybe make a blessing or two. We could do that. And the men looked at each other and says, well, it certainly sounds less dangerous, but you're not a rabbi. You can't do this. People will find you out. You're not thinking through. If these people knew the answers to the questions, they wouldn't be asking them. I can make anything up and nobody will know the difference. Well, what about the blessings? The blessings, the same thing. I'll mumble a few words, everything will be fine. Well, they thought that it might work, so they found a broken down carriage, and they managed to find an old horse, and they got a black coat for Yunkel, big Streimel hat, and they made their way to the first town. And you know, this time it seemed he got it right. People came running out. A new rabbi, we've never seen this man before. What a wonderful rabbi he must be to visit us. And they started throwing money at them and throwing food. And the mayor came out and said, Holy Rabbi, I would be honored if you would come to my house. I would feed you and your men. I'd give you a place to stay. You can even take baths. All I ask is that you give a blessing to my daughter." They looked at each other. "This is great. Sure, we'll go." And so they headed off to the mayor's house. Well, he was very modest. It was a mansion. There was one of them. As they got in, they went up, they bathed, they had a fresh change of clothes. As they were getting dressed, they could smell the dinner down below. And they gathered round Yunkel and they said, "You know, you got it this time. This is good. This is the life." They headed down to the dinner, and the whole town was there in the great hall. The food was brought out, tray after tray. The wine flowed. It was a tremendous evening. And the mayor turns to Yunkel and says, "Holy Rebbe, perhaps now you could bless my daughter." Yunkel says, "Of course, I'd be happy to bring her down. I'm pleased to bless your wonderful daughter." "Well, Rebbe, she's ill. I was hoping you'd give her a blessing for healing. Could you come up to her room? It's too much for her to come downstairs." Yunkel got a little nervous. He said, "Ill? How ill is she?" "Truth be told, Rebbe, she's at death's door. And only the blessing of a very holy man such as yourself will save her life." Yunkel's heart was beating. He ascended the stairs, the men behind him. They got to the top of the stairs, and there was this door closed. The mayor reached and opened it. And there inside, a dark room lit by a single candle. A small bed with a smaller girl upon it, maybe 10 years old, clearly at death's door. The mayor pushed Yunkel in and closed the door. Everyone was silent. It seemed to go on forever, but they heard a weeping. They looked at each other, and the weeping got louder. It became moaning, and they recognized Yunkel's voice, and the moaning got louder still. It became a wail, and everyone knew that the young girl had died. Sure enough, the door flew open, and out comes Yunkel, the tears streaming down his face. He pushes his way through and runs down the stairs. Behind him, the girl, walking. She runs into her father's arms. Oh, she's cured. The men go running down the stairs after Yunkel. They see him flat out on the lawn, weeping, sobbing. One of them says, Yunkel, how did you learn such a blessing?" He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "You cured her. You cured the girl. What blessing did you give?" He says, "Blessing? I don't know any blessings. All I know is that when I got in there and I saw this young girl dying, I raised my fist. I said, 'God, what kind of a God are you? What kind of God sends a thief to cure a young girl?'"